Welcome, everybody. This is Eric. I want to welcome you to the last show of 2019, folks. We are wrapping this all up. I'm going to have some great changes coming into the new year and some more experiences, some more things to offer for you guys and my listeners, and as well as my guests. So with all that being said, this week is Mudbone. There was nobody better to end this year with than to sit down and talk with this guy. He's amazing. He's played with everybody. He's opened up for so many amazing people, and he is what the epitome of American music is. He's blues, he's country, he's Americana. He is what today's music, as far as that genre goes. He's even a little bit outlaw. So without further ado, folks, let me introduce you to Mudbone.
Say he think it's okay to treat me like I'm less than, when I work hard every day just to keep him a rich man. Come home every night to a woman that loves me, but these days working hard don't afford another mouth to feed. Traffic line, it's a cesspool of car fumes. People fussing, beeping, honking, weeping if you don't go the way they want you to. Got this fool flying me a bird for pulling over for a hearse. I guess these days dying ain't good enough to give respect for what you're worth. Or the way that the world's falling in on these crystal clear walls we've built are closing in, and no one sees how we.
Hey everybody, I'm Eric. Tonight we got somebody special coming on. We got the man himself, Mudbone. Welcome to the show, sir.
Wow, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've loved your music for a long time now, and kind of been following you and kind of in the backside of things. And when I started this, you were one of the people that I said, okay, I need to get him on my show. So this was.
Well, thanks, man. That's awesome.
You're a benchmark for me. Yeah, you're definitely a benchmark for me. So I'm really happy about this one. And you just got done with the big songwriters festival, right?
Yeah, the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival in Perdido Keys, Florida, right there on the Alabama-Florida line. Kind of hubbed out of the mighty Floribama down there. It's kind of like Christmas for songwriters.
I see, that's
awesome. Each other once a year, and it's at the Frank Brown.
Well, let's go into songwriting, because I know that's something I always talk to everybody about.
Okay.
What's your process, and where do you draw your inspiration from?
Well, as far as processes go, I kind of like to let this. One of the things that those writers centered around the Frank Brown and the Floribama taught me early on was that you let the song write itself. That was a sort of a benchmark for me in learning how to write a song. You let the song write itself, and so sometimes you got many different processes. There's word palettes. You can come up with a word palette and structure your verses, or it hits you and you structure it all right there without the word palette. There's different tools we have as writers to craft a song. And as far as inspiration goes, man, everything. My biggest inspirations generally come from just stories, things that people say as far as sometimes out on the road, you run into folks that have great stories, and they tell you about the time the dog got kicked out of the county for biting the mayor and stuff like that. And it's all of a sudden now it's like, yeah, we got to write this song now. I like writing songs with people who don't write songs. That's a a fun thing to do because you got great stories there. So
that's true. Because I mean, it's like, you know, any kind of writer, you kind of get it in your head where it's going to go, and then once you get everything down is when you actually start applying your craft to make it, you know, that those tweaks and nuances to make it yours.
Yeah, you know, and it's relative to what we do and where we're at and how it hits us. But I find, like I said, that if you just open yourself up to what's around and kind of not be having awareness of your surroundings, you know, that's kind of a big thing because that's when you're tuned into what's going on and when you can sort of pick up that inspiration.
Now, do you find you get lyrics or music easier?
It's really all over the place. Sometimes you'll see something and it'll inspire a lyric, or sometimes you'll hear a bird that inspires a song, or the way the water falls over, it sort of makes a trickle sound. Depending on how big the waterfall is, it can trigger some melodic ideas and stuff like that. There's all sorts of finding inspiration for lyrics and music. So some songs happen with the lyric first, some songs happen with the melody and the chord progression. So
I fully get it, and that's what makes you such a good storyteller too. Because I think you just kind of like you're saying, you just kind of listen and, you know, observe the world around you. And I don't think there's even a writer alive that wouldn't tell you the same thing. You get your best stuff from just listening and observing.
Well, you know, I feel like it's our job and place in the world to reflect the human condition back to it. But then the people feel like their conditions are represented. So they relate to different songs and different sounds, and really what we do is we represent their condition back to them. So that's it's a joy and an honor to be.
See, and I haven't heard anybody actually put it that way. I mean, I know because, you know, I talk with everybody about, you know, what music means to them, because, you know, music is everywhere. Music is to make you feel something. Because me personally, I like sad stuff. You know, if it's a dark song and it's not happy, I'm probably going to be happy from hearing it. That's just what I'm geared to. And, you know, I can hear.
That's the thing. That's your flavor. That's what you're tuned into. So,
and you know,
that's what makes you feel represented.
Yeah, and you can hear that really driving, you know, song that just really takes you back to when you were a kid and everything else, and you can enjoy that just as much too. But, you know, and then it's just all about feeling it. You have to be able to feel it. You can put yourself, and that's what I think you achieve very well with your songwriting. Is
thanks, man.
Somebody can say, you know what, I can insert myself into that story, and I understand it.
And Muddy River, where I'm from, it's where I belong. The banks are steep and the river is winding, waiting for my Lord to carry me on. When I was just a child, Lord, I was a child wandering, waiting for when I could roam. But
and I think, you know, there's a lot of up and coming guys that are still struggling with that they can't just make those, you know, use that word, that language that says, hey, you know, I've been there too. And, you know, where you could put yourself, just say, I can drop anybody into this song and they're going to get it. And I think that's something that you do and craft very well.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I was just talking to somebody about that at Frank Brown. for a long time in Nashville, you know, I played guitar for other artists, and I've written songs my whole life, and I've never, I had up to a certain point wouldn't call myself a songwriter, because I'm not lying. What I would tell everybody is that I hadn't lived enough life yet to call myself a songwriter. And I remember that changed about 2 weeks after knowing and becoming friends with a fellow named Wayne Mills, who a lot of folks are familiar with. That really that opened my eyes up to actually we do. We all have something we can say.
Well, and I know musically, where do you feel like you fit into the spectrum as far as music goes? I know where I kind of feel where you're hitting, and I know you've got a really deep blues background that can turn around and rock and honky tonk with the best of them too. Where do you feel like you fit in, or do you even, or do you not even try to fit in, and you're just happy just being you?
Well, that's ultimately the thing, is I'm me, and I'm happy to be that, and I don't really try to, like I said, I just let the song write itself. Sometimes it's a blues song, sometimes it's a country song, sometimes it's a funk song. You know, it just, if you let it write itself, it'll tell you what it wants to be. And I kind of think, you know, the song, the River song. I come from a bluegrass family, and I sort of found the blues in Mississippi. And when I was a kid, there was a river called the Black River in northeast Arkansas. And on one side of that river was the Ozark Mountain. The other side of that river, it was the Mississippi Delta. And the river was the dividing line. They call it the dividing line between the Ozark Mountain and the Mississippi Delta. And I kind of like the dividing line. I call it the bringing together line. The dirt from both sides of the river washes into the river. That's what makes it that river. And on one side of it, it's all bluegrass music, and on the other side of it, you know, it's where the Delta blues comes from. So
yeah,
it's if I had to put myself anywhere, I'd put myself right in the middle of the river.
So you're Delta grass.
That's a good one.
There you go. That. Yeah, you got a little Delta grass in you. I like it. And see,
I do like it.
You know, I'm from up around the mountains and everything anyway, so bluegrass is like a staple here, you know, as well as, you know, country and everything else. But I grew up being a metalhead, so I'm kind of coming full circle. Because, you know,
there's, on some levels, there's a lot of similarities with bluegrass.
It really is. And I think, you know, because bluegrass always tells a story. And, you know, there's not much happy bluegrass, you know, other than gospel bluegrass. That's going to be happy.
Yeah. Especially like the old Appalachian stuff. That's all like Irish things about people stabbing each other with daggers and stuff. Like every song is written about.
Well, and it's stuff that was brought over from Ireland and Scotland when, you know, most of those folks were, you know, climbing into these hills, and they brought their songs and their music, and then that kind of just spread. And I mean, you could call it Appalachian, but I mean, you're from the Ozarks. I mean, it's the same people.
Same sound.
Yeah, same sound.
Mountain music.
It's mountain music. And, you know, blues. Blues is just another, you know, avenue where, okay, I've picked a piece of this and a bit of piece of this. And I mean, we wouldn't have rock and roll at all without blues. Because, I mean, that or bluegrass. Because everybody kind of picked their favorite parts out of all of it to be that creative.
Right. Well, you know, it all got swirled together. And now it's everything is a little bit of everything else, you know. That's there's no music that's unless you're strictly a traditionalist and you're adhering to a certain sound to preserve that sound.
Yeah.
Most of the music that happens now is a combination of, you know, blues and bluegrass or Appalachia and Delta music. But there's a lot of things good now. there's a lot of flavors getting added into the soundscapes that we're all using. So, hear a lot of Spanish influence, in a lot of Spanish guitar influence, and a lot of things that are going on now. So it's interesting the way that our cultures influence each other's when it comes to music.
How do you feel about the whole Americana movement? Which, I mean, because basically that's what we're saying. It's American music because it is such a conglomeration of everybody.
It is a conglomeration of everybody, but to me, that's what it's supposed to be because that's what America is, right?
Yeah.
I love being able to tour in the Americana stations and pop in because I never know what I'm going to get. I never know if I'm going to walk in and I'm going to hear Lester Flatt or Bill Monroe, or if I'm going to walk in and I'm going to hear Buddy Guy, or you never know what you're going to get when you walk in there. I love that. I love the diversity within Americana music. And I know there's some people out there that feel it's that I've referred to it as, I guess, diet country music or whatever, but that's not the school of thought that I adhere to.
No,
I appreciate all of the many different flavors that make our music. It takes all kinds of music to make the radio go right.
True, and that's I've pretty well built this podcast around Americana and Red Dirt and just people. And I don't think, like you said, nobody could call it diet country because, I mean, these are the kind of folks that are out there that are independent artists. They don't have record labels. Their fans are paying their way to be able to record that next album because they believe in them. And,
right.
I mean, Cody Jinks is a prime example of that. The guy raised the money on his own independent artist, put out 2 CDs back to back and both hit number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time you heard an independent artist did that?
I believe that's why he's who he is, because I think he sort of wrote that book.
Yeah, he kind of did and then threw it away and said, nobody else gets to share. I think.
Yeah, but see, the thing about it is not his way isn't everybody's.
Yeah.
So he created this system, and he's who he is because he created the system. He didn't follow the system.
Yeah.
So that's it's kind of interesting how that stuff works. Is the outlaw idea? It's more of a genre now than the idea it initially started at. Because of that, those guys pioneered a sound, but they pioneered that sound that was their sound, and nobody else was doing it. So they wrote their own rule book. So, but that idea is kind of merged into this idea of it's kind of a specific sound now. So it's strange how those things happen. Yeah,
I mean, I really couldn't agree more because, I mean, it's like it's nothing cookie cutter anymore. But, even on another side of that, you've got guys like you and some of these other guys that are, they're kind of encompassed under the Americana umbrella. I see more of that group of people lifting up other musicians and wanting them to succeed and saying, hey, get out there, do it. And
well, everybody does good when everybody does good.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. And that's how most artists that I know that see in the circuits I travel, that's how they deal with it. Now, when you're in the world, the corporate world with the labels and stuff like that, there's always a conflict of interest if you're highlighting another label's artist, or there's some sort of legality or red tape or corporate thing that prevents this, forbids you from doing stuff like that. So those guys don't have as much control over their own voices when it comes to the public and what they say as we do. That's why we do this. That's why I do it. Is I love to be able to speak directly what I'd like to.
Well, let's change gears a little bit. How was Scotland? I loved kind of following your trip, especially when you're we were in Edinburgh, because I've got a friend that just moved back home there. and I'm like, oh, I've heard about this. I've heard about this place. I've heard about this place. It looked like you were having a blast.
I had a blast. Getting used to driving on the other side of the road was the only thing that really took a minute, but I got to actually look a lot better once you get it. But I enjoyed the whole country. Loaded up in the Highlands. The cities were great. The mountains were great. Just the whole country. Everybody seemed to really have a sense of commonality. I think everybody thought driving it is a good example. They weren't thinking, how do I get there? They were thinking on the lines of how does everybody get where we're all going. And I thought that was a cool thing to see. And
isn't that a novel
castles
thought?
Were pretty. Yeah, it's right. As I got to drive 6,000 miles a month, we could use a little more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But, I mean, yeah, you're right.
It's a great country.
Yeah.
I got to put my hands on stones that my family laid in place in 1294. I mean,
wow.
That was something that I didn't expect to ever get to do.
How awe-inspiring was that? Because, I mean, when you know, your ancestor could have laid this very stone, and there's got to be a specific energy you're getting off of that because of that connection.
Well, it was a pretty surreal experience. It was kind of eerie on the level. There were two just separate castles in close proximity to each other, and I actually got to walk around it. It's very old, and it was basically in ruin. But everything, like, I kind of knew where I was going when I was walking around in the place. So that was a little bit eerie. But it was a cool experience all around, man.
It sounds like there may be a song in there somewhere.
Oh, I've already got a couple for sure. I'm sure there's plenty more.
Heck yeah. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to getting it to everybody.
I know we've been kind of talking general music. Who were your kind of inspirations coming up that, I mean, I know you say you come from a bluegrass family and everything, but who were those, pivotal musicians and everything that really you bit the bug, and that's what inspired you to pick up the guitar?
Well, like I said, family, there's always a guitar laying around the house, get thrown up. And so it was always just a part of life. But I remember, super early on, BB really did the thing for me. And made me notice what a guitar was. And that was sort of how I rebelled against my bluegrass. It was, I went into the blues. And my dad moved down to Teoc, Mississippi when I was a kid. And started going down there and learning about music. And a good friend of mine down there gave me a box of magazine, Guitar World, Guitar Player magazine. They always had the guitarists featured in the always accounted for their inspirations, who inspired them. And I noticed that it all went back to just a certain few collection of guys, and they were all from right where I was at in Mississippi. So it was, I kind of started at the beginning of modern guitar and electric guitar and stuff, and worked my way through time, and learned chronologically how to play guitar as I found guitarists that, went through time up into the modern era. But when I got to Duane Allman, and I got stuck for like 7 years. I stayed on Duane Allman for a really long time. Stevie Ray Vaughan's the reason for my first electric guitar. There's a lot of that. What was your first guitar? Do you remember? It was a Lotus Stratocaster. So there's two first guitars. The first guitar, my dad pulled a Sears Silvertone guitar out of the attic in my grandmother's house, and I proceeded to tear it all apart. Took all the strings off, took all the machines off, took the pickups out and pick guard off, took the bridge apart. I got it mostly back together.
Mostly.
I just kind of wanted to see how. Yeah, mostly. We'll just leave it at most. It was. I just kind of wanted to know how it worked. I was fascinated with all the little pieces and parts and stuff, and that was kind of my first guitar. Then I asked for a guitar for Christmas. Then my Stevie Ray Vaughan phase, my mom got me a little Lotus Stratocaster that that's how I cut my chops on.
I remember my first one. It wasn't mine. I ended up breaking my grandmother's Bluebird because I was young. I didn't know that you can't over tighten everything and leave it sitting there like that.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I mean, we've still. My dad still has it. He goes, doesn't matter if it ever plays again or not. He said it's still a part of our history, and and now knowing what that meant later on in life, man, it just kind of makes you sick. I mean, it just like somebody punched you in the gut, and you're just like, man,
but it's got its own story, and
true.
Its story is its own. No other guitar has that story. So.
Well, and with me, I think back, it wasn't until I was older, and then looking back at that guitar and everything, I'm like, man, I wonder what songs were ever played on that, because she passed before I was ever born. So I'm like, I wonder what songs she played on that. And I'm sure, it was some bluegrass gospel from back in the day, and she, may have, snuck in some old family tunes from, Ireland, from where the family came from and everything. But,
sure.
It really makes you, when you stop and think about it from that, you're like, man, this is a whole different piece of history. And it's kind of hard to put into words.
Yeah, it's like the family Bible that's been passed down for 400 years. That's kind of how all music came about. The home's handed down through the generations, and to get to be a part of that's a pretty special thing for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's a really good comparison. I never even thought about it from the family Bible aspect of things, because people don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's what made me think of that is a fellow in Mississippi just texted me the other day. He bought a estate auction, bought a family Bible with my last name on it, and he was like, "Hey man, these might be some of your people." So I'll have to get my hands on that and check that out.
Wow. Wouldn't it be crazy if you ended up being somebody that was actually in your lineage too?
Yeah, for sure. You never know how these things are going to work out, man.
No. Yeah, I mean, the universe throws, and the universe will throw things at you just to make you think sometimes. Be like, wow,
oh yeah,
this is it. This whole world is a lot smaller than we thought it was.
Oh yeah, we're not in control of anything. We're just riding.
Exactly. We're just surfing through life, and you hope you get those highs, you get those lows, and you just dig down. And I think it also has a lot to do with being Southern. And I'm not knocking anybody from up north or anything, but as Southerners, because you're a Southerner too. That's who we are inherently. But I think we come up with a different mindset on things like that.
Yeah, it's traveling around the country, man. I've got great friends everywhere, and there's great people all over. But there's definitely a difference in the general operations of kind of everybody's interactions. But it's more than just in a north and south thing. It's north and south, and then east versus west, and then you've got. It's like barbecue. South Carolina barbecue is not like Memphis barbecue, and that's not like Kansas City barbecue, but that's what makes barbecue awesome, Well,
you hold on to that. You hold on to that thought, because we're actually when I do the bare bones questions, I've got a barbecue question in there, so you're going to enjoy that one. Because even North Carolina barbecue is a whole different vein, because you get South Carolina, you got mustard base. That's what everybody goes for. Unless you go downstate, and then you're going to get, spicy vinegar.
Right.
So, who are some of the greats you've had the pleasure of playing with over the years?
Man, shoot, I've gotten to stand on stage with some folks that I never figured I'd be on stage with. Got to be on stage with John Fogerty. Got to do, it wasn't a person, but I got to play Dwayne Allman's 57 Gold Top that he recorded Layla with Eric Clapton at a show one night. And that, I don't know, to me that counts. I was excited about that.
That counts like right up top.
Yeah, there was a singer out of North Georgia, had several country hits in the late 90s, Don Berry. He's always been an influence to me. He's a great vocalist. The dude's got pipes for days.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
He's great. And I got to do did a Christmas tree several years back, and that was great. Then the Montgomery Gentry Boys got to do some of that. Colin Ray, great singer. Love being on stage with him. Brett Michaels. Got to play Every Rose Has Its Thorn on stage with Brett Michaels. That was kind of fun.
That's awesome.
You never know where you're going to go.
Yeah,
when I was a kid sitting in an apartment in the middle of a soybean field, I didn't know learning that guitar lick was going to take me there for sure.
I know it's kind of crazy how small the world is, because it's like I grew up, Brett's band now that backs him up, Pete and all those guys, and Eric Bedingfield. I'm like, I grew up listening to Eric when he was with Cinderella.
Yeah.
And then you get to meet these guys and spend time with them, and you're like, wow, they're just, we're talking about our kids and birthday parties, and it's like, we're feeling old today. And it's just it's those guys you look up to, and then when you finally get to meet them, you're not let down, because you realize they're just as real as everybody else around you. It's just, people fanboy or fangirl, and they build up these expectations. So when they do meet somebody, they, get their feelings hurt.
It's interesting thing, because, we travel around, we play music, that's what we do. And then, because we, like we were talking about earlier, we represent people's emotions. That means more to them than I think we know, and even they know, And so when folks come up and are excited to be at a show, excited to be able to sit down and have a conversation, I love to be able to do that.
And I love that you're still approachable. You've been doing this for a minute now, but you still, you can tell you love your fans, and your fans love you. Because if you even watch any of the social media, your fans love you. There is no, halfway, which I think is phenomenal, honestly, because that's your fans keep you going. That's your lifeblood.
That's what that is true. I credit a lot of that to, I decided to take a really organic approach when I started growing my fan base. And now that's sort of all measured off by social media. And one of the things, there's, you buy likes and do all that stuff. That doesn't really do anything for you. One of the things that I'm proud of is that most of the people that follow along on my social media are people that I met them at a show or truck stop. They were curious as to what I did. Or climbing the mountain in Colorado. They wondered why I was sitting 11,000 feet playing a guitar. Just stuff like that. It's personal interaction. And when that happens, they're a little more invested than if they just follow you because they think they're supposed to, because everybody else.
Yeah. And seeing that's great. And you're creating an experience with them and for them. Well, I mean, heck, you're creating an experience for yourself. Because like you said, if you're 1,000 foot up a mountain playing a guitar and people come up on you, you know, that's not something that you're going to run into every day at all. So
no, people look surprised when that happens. I'll give it that. And I've got this little Martin backpacker guitar that I carry up in high places, and I carry, I think, everywhere I go. But it's lightweight. And you can carry it pretty easily. I'll get up on a rock somewhere and just sit there and see what comes out. And occasionally somebody will walk by, and they're very, they'll walk by breathing heavily, and because the oxygen gets a little thinner up there. They've been hiking up all day. They're wondering how this is just sitting here playing a guitar. Or why is this even happening? It's a pretty rare sight for them. It happens.
And they got to be questioning, okay, is this a lack of oxygen I'm experiencing? Is this a delusion?
Right. Now, is this for the hallucination?
Right. Maybe that mushroom pizza did taste a little funny back before we hit the trail today.
And, I'm talking about Colorado here. So.
Well, yeah. And, Colorado is an experimental state.
Yeah, maybe people do see guitar players sitting on rocks when they're not there. You never know.
Hey, you never know. And hey, who's to say they may actually all have it right? It may be everybody else is getting it wrong.
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep myself in between the ditches,
Yeah.
It's hard to know what's right and wrong for anybody else.
How many shows do you average a year? Because I know I see you're always, I mean, just in the time that we've been going back and forth trying to get this set up, you have been, several continents and all over the U.S. too.
I guess we average anywhere between 220 and 240 shows a year. That's what we usually set out at the beginning of the year to try to book. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less.
Right on.
We try to burn up the roads as much as possible.
I hear you. You sound like Dallas Moore with that one though. As long as I'm on the road, I'm good. Okay, we'll go into some bare bones then if you're ready. These are easy.
All right.
What is your favorite guitar to play?
Acoustic or electric?
You're either or both.
All right. My favorite acoustic guitar to play is my Taylor 615C that I play acoustic. Her name's Stella. She's Taylor built it for me. It's a custom job. It's my Mudbone Taylor. I like to play that. It sounds exactly like I always wanted. That's my favorite acoustic. My favorite electric guitar, I've always been a Les Paul guy. I lived in Tellytown for many years, but I love Les Pauls.
And I love Taylors. There's nothing acoustically. They just have. I know there's a big battle between Martin and Taylor. But I'm sorry.
The classic Martins, they're hard to get. It's hard to get your hands on a vintage Martin for what you can get a great sounding Taylor for.
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard some people play a Taylor that sounded like 5 different people playing an instrument just because of the acoustics coming off of this specific guitar. And I mean, I've been blown away and loved them ever since. Okay.
Yeah, I was impressed with what all they showed me when I went to tour the facility there.
All right. Is there a band that you're really into right now, or an artist?
Like a newer band or any band?
You can pick any band.
Well, I've always been a fan of that Trucks Tedeschi Trucks thing.
Okay.
I followed Derek's career for a long time. I love those guys. I'm trying to think. There's a there's a band called the Bottle Rockets that is, I've been listening to them a lot lately. It's kind of funny. I saw them at a festival in Memphis, like in 98 or 99. I bought the record, and I never really heard anything. I thought they broke up as a band, and only recently I've gone online and I was trying to look up that old record I bought, and I've got like 30-something records out now. They're still hitting it hard, so now I get to rediscover a favorite band that I thought broke up but never did. It's kind of a strange situation. So I've been listening to a lot of that one.
See, I saw them years ago with the Avett Brothers, and I'd forgotten about them. Thanks for reminding me about those guys.
Yeah, I love that band. They were great. They were like that. It was like this country rock, like slangy trailer thing, man. I loved it.
And you gotta love it. Okay, what is your all-time favorite book?
My all-time favorite book?
Mm-hmm.
The Bible. 100%.
Right on.
There ain't another book like that one.
That's a fact. All right, now we're going to get into the barbecue question. Pulled pork or brisket, but then what kind of sauce would you put on it?
Man, I got to be honest with you. I like a sweet barbecue sauce. I like spicy. I'm not a big vinegar guy, but I grew up close to Memphis, so I'm pulled pork all the way.
Right on.
And with sweet barbecue sauce.
Okay, that's a great answer. Okay, what was the first record you picked out for yourself or bought for yourself?
Chuck Berry, 28 Greatest Hits. That was the first record I remember buying as a kid. The first money I ever made playing music, my dad made me buy a Merle Haggard box set. And that was a great investment.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, what was the first concert you remember going to?
Well, I grew up in a musical family, so we did a lot of bluegrass festivals, stuff like that as a kid. Parents had a gospel band. We were always doing big gospel singing events and stuff like that. But the first, I guess, large production concert I ever went to was, it was either Travis Tritt or Leonard Skinner and Hank Williams Jr. I'm not sure. It was one of those two. I don't remember which came first.
Any one of them would have been great.
Oh, yeah, both of them were great shows.
Okay, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Oh, Star Wars, 100%.
See, I knew I liked you. Okay, what is your jam song? I don't care if you've heard this a million times. Every time you hear it, the volume goes up, and if you're behind the wheel, you know that speed's going to crank up a little bit too. That let's roll the window down and just live it and love it. What is that song for you?
Radar Gun by the Bottle Rockets.
All righty. Okay, a person living or dead that you would like to take the stage with one time.
Shoot again, man. I didn't catch the question.
A person living or dead that you would like to be able to take the stage with just one time.
Ooh, B.B. King.
Okay. That's a really good one, too. Okay, do you have a life mantra?
It's not a good deal unless it's a good deal for everybody.
Ooh, I like that one. That's solid. Okay.
That's true, too. Nashville taught me that.
Oh, yeah, and see,
we took a long way around to learn that.
We won't even get into the whole Nashville thing because I mean I've heard so many horror stories from different artists over the years that
it's a necessary evil. It'll eat you up, spit you out. They don't care who you are. It'll spit you out on top. It'll spit you out on bottom. You're just there for the ride.
You're just a chewing gum under their shoe.
Yep, pretty much.
Okay, so who besides yourself should people be checking out musically these days?
Well, one of my favorite records, it's actually one of my favorite records of all time, is a good friend of mine. His name is Daryl Wayne Dasher. It's an album called Reincarnation. He released that earlier this year, and I got to tell you, it has the bigness of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, except for it's an acoustic album with, it's just the way he takes up space with what he puts in there. And lyrically, man, it's a walk through the clouds, really, is what he is. I love that record. So I would definitely say Daryl Wayne Dasher, my friend Jill Kinsey, she's working on a new record now. The Girl Gods, just on an incredible level, and musically just a powerhouse for himself. There's the Highway Woman, Bridget London. She's a great inspiration to many folks, and all of her music is incredible.
You threw out some great ones there too. Okay, this will be your last one, and this should be your easiest one. If you got a really good sense of humor. If you had a spirit animal, what would it be and why?
If I had a spirit animal, what would it be and why?
Yes, sir.
That's a good one. I would probably say catfish.
Okay.
Because it spends all its time in the mud.
I can dig it. That's that's the first catfish I've gotten. I like it. You're definitely unique. Well, is there any shout outs you want to give before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to everybody that goes out after a long day's work or after a hard week's work and goes out and listens to a band or listens to a songwriter, doesn't even enjoy live music. That helps support both the artists that are there and the venues that are supporting you. That's who I want to give the shout out to, because those are the people that are keeping the whole thing alive.
See, I like that. I like that a lot. Well, you know what? I think we can't say anything better than that after that one. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Mudbone, thank you for being a guest on here. It's been a pleasure talking to you, sir. And we'll definitely stay in touch, and we'll get you back on here one of these days real soon. So
absolutely. Let me know, man. Stay in touch.
Thank you so much. And folks, keep listening. We'll check you out soon.